you.
All right. Thank you for whoever's attending this session. I mean, I love that. Hopefully everybody's got a drink in their hands because I try to make it as painful, as non-technical as possible for everyone, as entertaining, right? Because can everybody see my screen at the moment? Is that okay? Well, I don't have any.
Yep. It's good. It's good. It's good.
Yes, yes, we can.
And
It's
also,
good.
this is also my attempt to use one of those, AI tools just to help me with my put together a presentation. So without further ado, with whoever is over here on the session, let's start with a question about what does Web3 mean to you, right? Let's play a little game. I'm not going to make you give me your answer, but choose A, B, C, or D. A is basically, oh my God, cryptocurrencies are scams, NFTs and metaverse are dead, right? That's A. And the second one is, meh, I don't know what is Web 1, 2, 3 is, but at this point, I'm just too afraid to ask. The third one is why does it matter to me and my business? All right, can we put in your answer A, B, or C? Oh, let's see.
If I can go first, I think non-fungible tokens are things to look out for, particularly in the sports industry, where we like to keep memories. You know, an Olympic gold medal can be tokenized, and many other things that people look forward to keep in their history, in their memories, in their museum, can all be tokenized.
Hmm. Okay. I, I don't know if I can see everybody's answer, but thank you for your feedback. I think it's interesting. Did anybody type in this chat box or no? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
we tapped it in. Can you see, Brittany?
I don't think I can see the feedback for some reason.
Oh, you go to the chat group.
Yeah, I opened the chat, but there is no
Oh,
sort.
Oh, that's odd.
uh,
I
that's
said B.
odd.
I have researched it, but I'm still not 100% sure what it is.
Right, right, and then you don't want to ask because it is everywhere, but you don't know what that is, right? Because it gets really technical. Okay, that's a good sort of feedback. All right, since I can't see the answers, maybe someone can tell me later. We can just
The
move on.
answers are A, B, and I said Web3 is power back to us. Most important.
Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so I guess we have different ABC sort of divided into different sort of sections, but I guess let me just start with something that's really simple with Web3. If anybody who's still interested, right? I think while we're breaking out from Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 is Web 1. I think what we can think of is back in the days when the World Wide Web, right, the times of Yahoo comes out with a portal website with 10,000 links for you to click on just to read a piece of news, right? That's where we're at because that's the originated sort of state from the internet. And then moving down to Web 2, where it's explosion of content of social media platform, right? So we're moving on from read only all the way to write because of social media. You're able to send out 1,000 posts on your Twitter or sending beautiful photos on your Instagram, right? And migrate to Web 3. I think Web 3 is where read, write, and own or earn at the same time. How do we explain that? We've been spending so much time on social media, liking posts, but what do we get? At the end of the day, we get sold to products, right? But what do we get at the end? We're the only one who's spending money. But Web 3 is the state where you can actually, your effort will be honored through a reward system put together by any of the projects. For example, imagine you will get $1 on each like you give it to Cristiano Ronaldo's Instagram post, right? And then I feel like while that's maybe not the best incentive for you to like his post, but at the same time, you feel like you're part of this, right? And also through website, through the technology, it's a true and the proof of ownership that you really own specific things. For example, your efforts will be recorded and tracked and won't be able to evoke through the block because of the blockchain technology, right? So you're able to prove the fact that you're the first collector, let's say, of Michael Jordan's, like the '98 NBA final, with the Chicago Bulls, because everything is written on the blockchain and nothing can be removed. So yeah. So when we start from that, I think a few basic sort of terms that you've heard when it comes to Web 3, right? I think blockchain, what is blockchain, right? I think it's literally a chain, a chain that actually has a lot of knowledge or information, or you can call it a ledger, right? A ledger with all the sort of digital transactions being recorded in that. I think that the interesting with blockchain is everything that's being written on the chain is not able to, cannot be removed or evoked. And also that this technology, your information or your transaction data being stored actually on the cloud system. That's why companies like AWS or NBA Cloud are heavily involved with it, with this sort of Web3 industry, because everything is stored based on the cloud system. And when it comes to smart contract is a digital contract, right? I think blockchain is, since it's a ledger, but there's so many activities that's being sort of applied on the chain. And how do you actually come up with a framework? Who does what, right? With action points. So writing smart contract, which means coding on the blockchain, would be able to help to record the specific act and or action that's being created on the blockchain. And also whatever you do has an automation sort of function to it, so you don't have to kind of go in and program it. And then when it comes to tokens and NFTs, what we think about this token is Bitcoin or Ethereum, something that sounds highly scammy, but yeah, it is. Token, it is a type of digital asset that with specific sort of value utility, right? That goes by against, with the US dollars, with the so-called stable coin. So we can refer back. When I just looked at the price of Bitcoin, I think it's around 80,000 US dollars each Bitcoin today. So all the references still goes back to, the sort of USD, the forms that we understand. And NFTs is actually a form of token itself. I think the difference is token, like any sort of currencies, right? It's not unique. You can have, let's say, 10,000 US dollars paper bill, on, I guess, being issued, whereas NFT is one very unique sort of item and token, right? It has this non-fungibility that shows specific sort of rarity and special sort of function that ties into it, but it is a form of token. And the last one is DAO. I think DAO is a very interesting concept when it comes to government and governance. I think that the blockchain, sort of the Web3 environment, is highly decentralized, which means that the typical sort of hierarchy system in the organization does not exist. It's an extremely flat sort of government system that everybody is a decision maker. Everybody is, I guess, as an investor in this space. Whatever decision that's being made has to go through this group of people. And for anything, let's say they will vote for, what to eat for dinner, or they will go for which football club to be sponsored, right? So it is an effort that come together by the community rather than a centralized sort of, decision maker, and goes down to, the bottom. So I think these are some of the, kind of terms that we always hear. I think this is something that we should, apart from all the other technical stuff, I think these terms we should kind of get familiarized with ourselves, right? Even though it gets very technical, but I don't think we need to worry about this. As long as we understand the top line technology, what it does, then it's great. So there's some of the blockchain Web3 characteristics. The pros is, I guess, decentralizations, right? Since the Web3 is such a sort of grassroots and democratized sort of act, the reason why I guess Bitcoin exists is, really saying no to the financial system and also the government. So everybody comes together wherever you are, right? You can be literally in Africa, France, China. Obviously, it's not legal in China, but it is a decentralized sort of act. That's why when it comes to the governance, everybody is quite flat. And just because it's so based on the grassroots effort, that's why community becomes such an important thing. Everybody comes together not because of someone tells you what to do, but they come in together for a belief. And unfortunately, a lot of the times when it comes to blockchain, the common belief is to make money together. but it is some sort of incentive, or maybe they believe in specific technology that can change, I guess, the future of something, right? That's why they issued a token. but everything is community driven. That's what we see. And then also blockchain is able to rewrite, how the community engagement form as well. And also transparent and fast, because the blockchain, everything being written on the blockchain cannot be removed, cannot be revoked. I mean, you can, but it's going to take so much time and effort to kind of remove these sort of information. Also highly costly, and also ties into the environmental sort of issues out there. So everything be recorded on blockchain. Let's say every single transaction that, let's say, Peggy makes, you send to Brittany, can be recorded. It's transparent to everyone, even though nobody knows it's Peggy, send it to Brittany, right? Because to ensure the security of that as well. Just because it's a highly sort of community decentralized driven format, so everyone is highly collaborative. The interesting thing is, I think with blockchain, a lot of the time it does tie into the monetary sort of, I guess, financial system. So projects to projects, everybody will very open to collaborate with each other and share users, because the more people in the community, the more liquidity pool it is in. That's why whereas some of the Web3 world is, oh, if I want to work with this, I don't know, project, it's a lot of the time it's transactional, right? Whereas in Web3, oh, let's collaborate. As long as, we're serving the same goal, increasing the liquidity pool, everybody gets rich. At the end of the day, that's the incentive. And again, it's rewards driven. Whatever you do, as I mentioned, that since it's a Web3 is whatever you do can be earned and owned. So whatever you do, will be rewarded. So that's also a good sort of function and pros into this. And then the con is, and obviously it's very financial driven. We hear so much about crypto bros. Everybody is hyping FOMO, right? I think it's incredible, some of the projects without even having anything tangible, just because specific beliefs and ties into the token, and and then they're able to rally up such a big amount of liquidity, and and people start trading, right? So which is something that's not the most rational idea. That's why it became something very scammy. And recently there's a specific type of coin called meme coin. Literally, it's built on specific memes. Let's say Donald Trump got shot, right? And then somebody creates a meme, and then everybody, whoever, it could be the opposition party or it could be the fans, will buy the coin, right? Because it's a hype, because it's a meme. But oftentimes it doesn't serve any purposes but financial values, right? So sometimes a lot of this, the rug pull scheme, what happens? So it becomes to be extremely scammy and risky. And also to be able to onboard to some of the Web3 projects, so far for the most project, it's still a little bit more difficult because onboarding sessions requires you to have crypto wallet as well as some crypto coins to be able to kind of buy the other coins, right? So but even so, there are a lot of projects that are trying to work on the onboarding process without people having to go through the hurdle. But still, I think that's majority. That's unfortunate. That's what it likes in the Web3 and the crypto world. So that's some of the characteristics to keep in mind. And I think this slide really talks about the similarities between sports fans and so-called crypto and NFT bros. I think there is a huge demographic overlap between these two, sports fans and crypto bros. I think both of them are highly dominated, and both of them are very, very passionate and big advocates. And as a diehard fan, right? When you're a sports fan, you're definitely carry the legacy of your sports team. You're super passionate about the results, everything that has happened within the club or the team. Whereas with crypto bro, it's the same thing. I think whenever they believe in specific token, let's say Bitcoin, they are the biggest advocate in that space, right? And when these two characters put together, I think that's where the fire comes. And I think with a community identity, they definitely, I think with the sports community, it is very tight. People will get together to watch football game. They play football. They talk about football, live and breathe through the sports. And same as crypto as well. They don't mind actually, being identified as crypto bros, because the stuff that they're doing, as scammy as it sounds, right? But that's something that's very, very, very interesting. And both kind of demographics had this big desire for deeper engagement. Like sports fans constantly want to have a closer relationship with the sports clubs or the sports fan. If you give somebody a chance to meet Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm sure they would definitely do that, right? And also with the crypto bros, the constant day trading is the deepest form of engagement, and they're afraid of something that's popular, but they're not getting themselves involved in, right? So both parties are crave for these deeper engagement, and then on top of that, both of them are also risk takers. I think a lot of sports fans are also going down to the root of betting too. So I think between these sports fans that does betting, transition them into a crypto bro is literally just maybe one crypto wallet away. So I think from that part, I think there's a huge overlap between these two kind of demographics. But all and you can see on the right hand side, there are a few things that specific about crypto bros. I think we can see some acronyms called Dior. It's not the luxurious brand, but it means do your own research. I know for the longest time I said, what does Dior mean? But it's actually not the Christian Dior or whatever French accent it is, but it means do your own research because crypto projects emerge every single day. And a lot of the time, since they're so unsophisticated and there's not enough information, you really have to drill in and using, the biggest sort of crypto social media platform, which is X. And you have to look at what everybody's talking about it and then buy into tokens and coins, right? And the degens means extremely irrational sort of crypto investor, just literally based on any piece of information, and that they would just buy the coins, right? So I think it's something that's different from sports fan that we need to highlight, and maybe a couple sort of crypto lingo that you guys can and put on.
So,
And
Brittany, what does degens mean? I want to learn. I mean,
degenerate.
Dio is interesting, huh?
Degen means degenerate, right? So these are the
Degenerate.
really irrational sort of crypto investors. Basically, you spend, I don't know, $10,000 buying this so-called shit coin, right? That based out of nothing, just because everybody's talking about buy that coin, right? And you buy, and then you lose it all, and then you do it again, right? So I think these are very extremely irrational sort of people. The reason why they're able to do that because they've actually made a lot of money before in a very quick way. Let's say this Dogecoin, because of what Elon Musk said, right? And then when the falls, the rise and falls are very huge. So that's why this vicious loop just keep on going. Yeah. So I think the last sort of differences between the crypto bros and fanboys is everybody in crypto likes to stay online and stay anonymous. They don't want people to know who they are, right? And that's, I mean, in a way, it's also secure for them to move around their digital assets because it is transparent, right? So I think that's where as sports fans, they love to go out, they love to play football, they love to play basketball. So I think these are some of the differences, but the overlaps is very, very apparent. And then I think, we had a couple sessions. I mean, I was at Sebastian's session about AI yesterday. I missed it. I think I don't know much about AI for sure, but I think there are definitely differences because they're, between Web3 and AI, they're most talked about. I think I guess the application with Web3 and blockchain in the sports industry mainly focuses on fan engagement, ownership, and interaction model, and also new revenue streams, right? I think whereas when it comes to AI, it focuses more on data analysis, automations, everything that or enhancing whatever the on-pitch experiences, right? I think also something has to do with sponsorship as well, with analysis and things like that. But I would say that Web3 and blockchain is definitely something that ties you closer to the fans, right? Whereas AI's application is more on the grander scheme of things. So I think these are the basic differences that we can draw. And now let's talk about the Web3 sports landscape. As we can see it, I mean, just like option number 2, I feel like I don't know what it is, but it's everywhere. But at this point, I don't want to ask, right? Because it sounds like it's everywhere. But when it comes down to the real things, I still don't know what it is. And then look at the landscape, right? There are already a lot of projects in different categories that exist between the intersection of Web3 and sports. You have the moments, you have the trading cards, and on top of it, the metaverse and the fan tokens and the digital wearable fan gears, right? And the about esports. Then how do we dive into this, right? How do we actually get a basic understanding? I think today I would just go deep on, the 3 the most obvious and relevant sort of aspect between Web3 and sports. I think the first one is Web3 sponsorship, right? I think we have tons of, mentors and mentees that work for agencies as well as, sports IP holders, right? From what we see is, especially since, 2021 to 2022, I think the surge of crypto exchanges, the blockchain and blockchain technology and even NFT projects had such a big sort of boom on, sponsoring with the sports sponsorship, right? From crypto.com to even FTX, right? Everybody's talking about crypto again and Bybit, but nobody really knows about that. But it was such a big surge because there was a boom in terms of the crypto, I guess, exchanges and crypto NFT companies, and also goes with the market as well. There's the bull market, just like the stock market. I don't know much about stock, but I learned all my financial lingos through crypto. During the bull market, whatever you do would just go 100x. And then the bear market, whenever you do, it's just going to go 1,000x down, right? But during the bull market, every single one is creating a project. All these crypto exchanges, I think they have their ways of making money, not through, I guess, NFTs, but through all these crypto tokens being exchanged on the platform. So we see a huge boom. And then I think we've seen a big kind of slowdown recently because I think the drop, because given the fact that of FTX, the sudden drop of FTX, the unpredictability, the volatility of the market as well as the crypto exchanges, right? So I think a lot of sports IPs and crypto exchanges, first of all, did not get to exist anymore. And also I think when it comes to these partnerships, people are very, very wary about the crypto exchanges that they associate themselves with, because it's not only a way of, it is a way of endorsing specific crypto exchanges, right? And I think, and given the regulations and also law, I think, a lot of the IPs and even celebrities are facing a lot of the potential lawsuits. So I think given at FTX, I think that, in terms of sponsorship from crypto exchanges, the really in your face type of sponsorship has gone down a little bit. But with that being said, that, we still see pretty much, with the Premier League, 14 out of 20 Premier League had agreement with the Web3 sponsors, right? And European football clubs too. I think, the growth from the 2018 season to, the 2020 to 23 season, it's, still, a lump sum of money over less than 170 million euros across through the sponsorship dollar, because these exchanges are printing money on their own, right? And it's also the 10th, biggest spender in the football sponsorship, on top of you're going along with energy and tech sectors, right? So I think it's something that really bring up the awareness and make people ask, oh, what's really going on with that boom, right? And there's some graphics that you can take a look at it later, with all kinds of sponsorship. And then we see F1, pretty much all the F1 team has a crypto sort of exchange or NFT product sponsoring them as well, on their race cars and things like that. And I think the latest deal that's being done is actually with this crypto exchange called Kraken. They just became the sort of sleeve sponsor for Tottenham Hotspur. So the activity is still happening, but it's not the same sort of speed and the scale as before, right? Because both sides are getting more wary. And these are some of the notable projects that we've seen. Crypto.com, I think their headquarters is also in Singapore. MSD a couple of times. They're doing huge sponsorship. Took over, the LA, the Staples Center out of LA, and name it Crypto.com with a 20 years of title of naming rights, right? And I'm glad they're still around, not like FTX. And then obviously with the fall of FTX with Miami Heat, I think definitely reminded people how scammy, how risky this could be. And I think a few other notable sort of sponsorship deal is the Bybit and the Red Bull racing team with $150 million across 3 years of sponsorship. I actually spoke to the CEO of Bybit, Ben Zhou, as well as the CMO from Red Bull Oracle team at conference, All That Matters, really discussing this partnership as well as some of the fan engagement piece they're working at. And that deal is still happening. So we can through the ups and downs, we can sort of figure out which sort of crypto exchanges are more or less legitimate, right? More or less still, trustworthy. through their association with the sports clubs. And also Manchester United had a Tezos deal at their training kit for 100 million. But the funny thing is, I've been in Manchester United for a while, so I haven't really seen any activations really throughout, because a lot of the clubs are, especially like Manchester United, even Liverpool, we're highly risk adverse. Any bad news, any bad comes would definitely make our fans extremely angry, right? On top of the owner that we had, but so far I haven't seen anything that's happening with Tezos, between Manchester United, but they're still our sure sponsors. I mean, on training kit. So that's sponsorship. And also the second category is fan token, right? I think we talked about fan, I guess, I think when I just got into, I guess, the crypto and the Web3 world is, I think, the fan token really caught my attention on top of the sponsorship. When somebody introduced me to this project at socios.com, I was like, what is this? And then I found out they literally sponsor almost every single football club that I know. And then that's how I drew, the attention and interest into this business model, and really look into it and realize that it is actually a huge business model, even though it sounds highly sort of risky, because we are talking about fan tokens, buying and selling, right? But the difference is there are different types of token around. What a fan token sits around this area is called utility tokens. So it's not exactly, carries the real monetary sort of risk. You don't have to report to the federal security regulations, but it's more like a fan token, right? Or a gaming token, you can use it, right? It's highly unregulated, but you're not, I guess the goal for you is not supposed for you to kind of buy and sell, but it is in a way. But that's why they've been carrying out a lot of sort of fan engagement, utilities and benefits that tie into the token for everybody to be sticking around, right? And yes, I think there are almost 82 sort of football related fan tokens listed. I think most of the English Premier League as well as European football leagues are everywhere, and also they're expanding to other sports such as the football world. I mean the NFL world as well as the basketball world. Really trying to kind of spread across this piece of fan token across all the continents. And also socios.com, they've done tons of sponsorship themselves just for visibility, right? But at least they have their products, which is fan token, that's embedded into this sort of partnership, focusing on fan engagement. So I think the basic model for these fan token business, which dominated by socios.com, is I think people are taking profitability or losses just by trading the tokens because they're a big fan, right? Because if I'm a PSG fan, if I love Messi, yes, I guess I'll buy a couple tokens just to support my favorite club. Even though if you think about having every single football club going on the publicly listed exchanges, right? Except you don't have to go through that in the real world, but you can do that in the crypto world, right? And then I guess the rise and falls of the token largely based on performance, of the team on pitch or on the court, as well as big sports news. So and so joins specific club or team, right? I think it really impacts on that on top of the trading volume. But as a project owner, I've also dabbled into a different sort of fan token business. You want fans to keep buying. You want them to start using the token in your system and not sell them, right? And that way you're able to keep the value of the token very high, and then everybody makes money. If you're selling the token price is going to drop, and then and nobody's going to be happy about it. And how do you get through that? I think through utilities, through rewards and engagement. You're really keeping all the fans in the ecosystem, right? And obviously, these partnership, these sponsorship and deals, launching fan token is a great way, for fans to get really, really close to the sports team or the clubs that they're a big fan of, right? Really looking at what the clubs can offer to kind of encourage these fan engagement. For example, for let's say socios, the voting rights. If you're a fan token, if you're the fan token owner in terms of utilities, you have the voting rights on, I guess, maybe not the most decision-making things, but fun enough to keep you around. let's say, the next kit designs, right? I think that's highly doable. Or maybe the starting 11, or what songs to be played in the stadium today, right? Or what sort of visuals that you want to put on around the stadium, right? I think these type of things, that's something that have not been done before in a larger scale, but because of these fan token, you're able to do that, because you having this token is like a permission or an access for you to do that, right? And also they make sure that you have all these sort of reward system. Again, whatever you do being in this system, we reward you, right? Even with fan token, it's not real money. It is real money if you trade it, but at the same time, right? People want to be incentivized on whatever thing they do, right? And again, if I'm liking Cristiano Ronaldo's photos, yes, I like it, but what else do I get out of it? Does Cristiano even know, right? But whereas if you actually engaging with the system, you're able to reward it. And then also there are other sort of fan engagement that are building into this, and then we're talking about potentially get access, to that specific team's NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And then, holding the token is really a gating system, to differentiate yourself from other sort of traders to be able to buy it, right? And then you get access to having auctions or having these, AR sort of related experiences, or you'd be able to win sort of VIP tickets, or at the towards the end of the season, that type of thing. So I think with these fan token really allows clubs and teams to rethink how can they use their club assets, right? In a sort of casual way, but also important way to engage with their fans on a larger scale, right? Rather than just having fans just buying tickets and they're not getting anything returned, right? So I think that's the goal for fan token. And I talk so much about Socio because it is literally the strongest sort of player in terms of fan token. And I mean, I think since the project has done a lot of partnership and licensing deals before across all the football world, I think that the trend has died down a little bit, but I think these acquisitions are still happening. And I think these fan tokens work especially well, during big games and, before the Euros or the European Championships League, right? Because it does give fans, voting rights to vote specific, let's say, jersey songs or, starting 11, the type of engagement, right? I think Paris Saint-Germain is a really big player into that place, because it is the first sort of football club amongst all the major clubs that dabble into that space and launching a fan token, or really giving it a first mover's advantage in the space, right? And from what we see is, even though the token has been dropped just like everything else, but still it's one of the top traded tokens in history. It's still ongoing, right? So I think the utility and fan engagement is pretty much goes along to what I spoke about. And also the funny thing is, when Lionel Messi joined Paris Saint-Germain, his salary was partially paid by the PSG token as well. I mean, let's not talk about the tax invasion from football players and things like that. I'm not sure if it's one of the goals, but I think the innovation is really over there, and also shows his adoption and openness towards this unique fan token, right? Because it will have a direct sort of engagement effect, between the club, because it's not player to fans, but it's more on the club level, really using the club assets, right? So I think that's one of the fan token. If anybody wants to dabble into it, and I think I'm definitely just out of curiosity. That's why I bought some tokens, just to see what it's like. I'm not asking anybody to buy any tokens, but it is a very interesting sort of trend to watch out over there. Yeah. And then I think the next bit is NFTs and digital collectibles. Everybody's talking about NFTs. What the hell is an NFTs, right? And I think I mentioned that I think NFT is non-fungible. It is a very unique token that's within the system. I think it's not like a traditional token that, let's say, PSG token I can exchange with Manchester City token. No, I think the only way to basically trade NFT is on the secondary market. But since, given its function, its uniqueness, I think the trend of major sports team launching NFTs is still pretty much ongoing. even though the trend has died down a little bit. And from what we've seen is a lot of the major sports leagues have launched their NFT in different shapes or forms, right? Some of them are doing the video sort of unique sort of in-game sort of video experiences and calling this NFT, mint it as something that's very unique. And some of them using it as a fantasy football league, right? So I think really, again, gamification is very strong, fan engagement, on these utilities and being programmed against these NFTs, giving on their natures, right? And also the challenges similar to, fan token, its regulations and the sort of the rise and falls of the token, also secondary market control, and all the kind of legal stuff, and also the trading side of things that goes into it, right? And there's some graphics that you can look at, on your own if you're interested to see what are the trends, and also the profiles of the sports NFT fan segment, or the collectors, or the community speculators and tech lovers. So I mean, it's not only just the fans, but also really draws attention for all the sort of so-called crypto and NFT bros, right? I think also because of the sports NFTs and fan token, I think also reminds of existing crypto bros that, wow, I'm actually a fan, let's say, of LeBron James or Cristiano Ronaldo, right? So really kind of marrying these sort of sectors together. So again, I think NFT is given its uniqueness, since again, you cannot trade a LeBron James NFT to, I guess, Steph Curry's, but you have to trade it, on a secondary market because it's like a trading card, except everything is being written on blockchain. And the best thing is, whatever let's say if I'm the owner of Michael Jordan NFT on the specific moment, if I sell it, right, if I buy it from the platform, sell it to Peggy, and then Peggy sell it to Ariel, and there is a royalty system being embedded in. So forever, I'm going to be making, let's say, 10 to 20% profit. So I would actually encourage people to keep selling the NFT or trading it, right? So I think that's the different nature from a specific coin. And on top of that, I think the utility is different between fan token and NFT is, owning this digital asset is something very, very unique, because every single product that you put out as an NFT has a unique sort of ring to it. And also, the other thing is they have this tiering system in terms of based on their rarities. And then if I'm buying, let's say, Michael Jordan's jersey in 1998, the rarity is super, super, super rare, right? And let's say if I'm putting $200,000 on that, and even though people don't know Brittany's the owner behind it, but they kind of know what my profile is, right? They might call me specific names like whales, I guess, in the crypto world, because fat with tokens. And so I think, I think getting access to that, people kind of try to figure out, they can already have an idea of what types of profile person you are. And then, I think that's very unique. And as me, I do want to flaunt it, right? Like to show off that I actually have this unique NFTs or digital collectibles to all my fans. And I think the reward system also, I think they have the building, whatever you trade, whatever you buy, you'll be through your activities, they'll give you rewards, even give you coins, or they have different batch system. If everything's gamified, right? I'm a shrimp, let's say, in the level, because I just bought one NFT, but if I bought 10 NFTs at the value of $10,000 each, I guess I'm a whale or a dinosaur. I'm not sure, but they kind of rank you, right? Gamify the system to make you feel like, oh, you want to kind of keep going. And then the engagement, some of them, they give you exclusive content from the team or athletes, like maybe someone will, let's say Lionel Messi might record a message, maybe not specific to you, but you'll get access to a lot of the content that the general fan that won't be able to get access to, right? So I think the engagement is that. And some of the gamification also based on if it's just a digital collectible for you to trade, or it is something already gamified, such as fantasy kind of sports category. Yeah, so I think that's the difference between NFTs and the specific token. Has anybody fallen asleep yet? Okay. Yep. So with everybody's heard of NFT, NBA Top Shot. I think it is a very again, same as Paris Saint-Germain, they're like the first kind of sports team that launched their own NFTs, right? I think they worked with this company called Dapper Lab, which is traditionally worked with a lot of sports team and entertainment IPs. I think it is a they kind of position, the moments, the specific moments. I guess it could be dunking, it could be dribbling balls, it could be something really nice, and really coined that as a unique piece of I guess coin, an NFT, and allow people to buy it and sell it. And now I think they have really accessible sort of entry points, so because they're considering different people from different tiers. How do you want to play around with it? And also, at the end of the day, it's how much do you trade, right? I think they have different sort of access entry point, and also the rarity system, to showcase so I guess to flex of what you have in the space. I think this is still the most sort of successful NFT moments project out there, and I think eventually they're also launching the same scheme with their women's team. I think also as it goes, it's not just, again, I think having an NFT trading is one point of it, but really keeping everybody engaged and Tyson with this the club or team assets, creating all these unique experiences, right? Intersections. I think it's something that's very important for NFT projects like this. And what we see is with the La Liga, also with Dapper Labs, with the same company. I think dabbling around with, I guess, American sports, like football. Football is another beast, and I think with the La Liga, it's a club that's with it's a league that highly honors the history and the historical moments, right? I think there are a lot of beautiful, moments in the football world, in the Spanish football leagues that's being showcased. I think that the Spanish fans are very passionate about this. So I think creating based on the successful model, with the moments, can be recorded and being traded, right? And I think with this project, it's also you have this sort of fantasy, sort of sports kind of ring to it, because the other beauty from, I guess, blockchain is one chain, one project can go combine with another sort of project, right? I mean, it's called interoperability. I can't even say that word, but I think that's the beauty of it too. So I think this is another sort of example for how do you leverage kind of the sports moment, the historical moments, or in-game sort of snippets, right? And combined with the fan engagement, to kind of creating these synergies. And as a result, we've seen huge sort of increase on their social media. And also, I think the engagement rate is extremely high. That's why I think it was redeemed as one of the most successful kind of project in the football world. And then, on top of the moments as NFT, I think we also see the other sector, which is in the fantasy sports, right? And I'm not a big fantasy sports person. Maybe I'm just not into the gamification, but if you're a fan, definitely. I mean, frankly, I just don't know all the players, right? Whenever I receive all these players, I'm just like, wow, okay, who are these people? It's a great way for me to learn upon the teams and the players, but at the same time, like it is gamified, right? But as a boy, I guess maybe some of the girls, I definitely know girls who love to play fantasy football. I think this is definitely the dream for them. Not only you're able to kind of starting your own team, of course, they give you different packs, right? But you need to strategize about how do you actually, who to choose, right? And every single person's card can be minted as NFT, which is a collectible. So I think there just adds on to the existing sort of gamification, and you can still trade your card in these NFT platforms as well. So I think the gamified experience has been increased and also creates different sort of revenue sort of stream for everybody who plays it. And also the best thing is, since it's a fantasy sport, so everything that you're doing goes along to, right, their current on pitch performances, right? Because it has a direct effect to the team that you put together within your fantasy team. So I think it's rare today. It's still ongoing. I think there are a lot of sort of fantasy sports in American football or other sports are also up and coming because of this model. And we've seen tons of F3 racing team. I haven't seen maybe F1 specific NFTs just yet, but 8 out of the 10 sort of racing teams got their own NFTs, regardless if it's a 3D modeling of their beautiful cars or collaboration with an artist, right? But I think it is something that's very unique and daring to the population. I think it's also a very good time because the Netflix series Drive to Survive series. So I think it really had a boom of collecting all these unique, beautiful sort of NFTs and training them for fans. And I think the beauty of some of the NFT F1 racing team project is the onboarding system is very easy. I think we talked about being able to get into the system. You need to create a crypto wallet. You need to buy some USDT, and how do you actually put cash into this, right? Whereas I think gradually with all these projects, we're seeing the onboarding system is easy. So all you need is use a credit card, and then you'll be able to buy these NFTs, right? You don't have to worry about all these sessions. So I think it really helps people to onboard the journey and make it more pleasant. And on top of that, with specific NFT, like I hold the Williams team NFT as well, it also provides you the VIP experiences during the racing day as well. You will have a specific session. Let's say you're NFT holder. It's kind of almost like a ticket. And then because you're the ticket holder, you have a specific set of experiences. Oh, you might meet up with a racer that other people are not able to do that just because you're the NFT holders, right? So the certification, again, you're able to flaunt it, right? And it's a unique pass, and then people will know it's you because it is being recorded at the blockchain. So I think it's being widely adopted in the NFT racing team as well. And also we've seen a lot of personalities, right? Like celebrities, like football players. They're all launching their NFTs. I think in the beginning it was such a big boom on just everybody's launching NFTs, but what is the utility, right? And also, is it fun enough, or is it really a reputable scheme? I think with individuals or with teams, a lot of the things you also need to keep in mind is you can make it seem to be over speculative, right? Or if it's something that the club or the celebrity wants to make money out of it, but really thinking about the actually the benefits for the fans. I think Cristiano Ronaldo, it's his collaboration with Binance NFT is probably the most high profile NFT collection out there. I think he's been working with, I'm not sure what's the deal says with Binance, but I think he launched 4 collections with the platform, and really storytelling, his journey and his career, some historical sort of moments and different forms of sort of success that he's achieved in his life. And also it has different. So I think the latest one was launched in May 29th, and I think looks like the transaction value is pretty high, and some of the utilities and fan engagement, including playing football with Ronaldo himself. While I'm not sure if it has been redeemed, but this is something that's really appealing to the fans, right? I think with a lot of the project is you're giving out all these great utilities, benefits, meeting the celebrities or the football player, but can you actually make that happen, right? Because a lot of the failures that I've heard is it's a good ring to it, but they cannot redeem it. Then it's really, really bad for the fans, and you definitely lose credibilities. But let's hope that Cristiano Ronaldo does actually get to play football with fans and give them the ultimate benefits based on the rarity of the NFTs that they purchase. But I think the other side of the thing is I think since this big sort of transaction and I guess advertisement, I think Cristiano Ronaldo is also facing $1 billion lawsuits on a class act sort of regulations, because Binance itself, constantly these crypto exchanges are under investigation or under sort of I guess investigation, or the SEC is coming out to them. So there are I think Binance is getting fined with I think a couple billions of dollars, but Cristiano Ronaldo is promoting that NFT and the platform, right? So I think this is a big risk that every single one and every single club needs to sort of kind of think through before actually going to, work with another exchange and creating these NFTs. And the last one I want to talk about is this project called Step N. It's not exactly tied into any sports club, but I think it's really, really good for mass participation sports, such as running or I don't know, jogging. I think this app really is a so-called move to earn NFT. Basically, it ties within your kind of shoes as well. If you have Nike pair of shoes, you can actually mint it virtually as an NFT, and then it will count the steps that you either run or you walk, and then they will have all these reward system and competitions, and then then you're getting sort of and gamification and ranking that shows off how many steps that you've taken today and be rewarded with cryptocurrencies, right? So I think this is something that's highly interesting to most of the sports out there, and for mass participation. Imagine play paddle to earn or something like that, but I think this is something that's very unique. It also worked really well between brands as well, because it also has this platform allow you to plug in the brand of the shoes. Could be Nike, could be Adidas, right? And also kind of customize it, and you can mint it as an entity. So it becomes digital. Whatever you wear in real life also goes into this kind of virtual world. They're creating it, right? And count the steps. And then they will see, let's say Peggy has run 30,000 today, and we can see her shoes being recorded in the system, and Brittany really wants to buy it, so I can own. I'm not sure. Maybe I can own the 30,000, but it looks like I'm a big runner, right? It definitely has this like gamified sort of system to it. It was a big project, I think, back in 2022. I think it's still ongoing, but I think this is a very good project for a lot of, let's say, mass participation sports that everybody can think of. It also has a very good angle on environmental friendly. Well, I guess the goal is to, right, maybe reduce by running, cycling, you can reduce certain amount of carbon emission and things like that, right? So you can tie them to sustainability as well. So this is a project that I personally like a lot too. So some final thoughts, trying to make it to an hour. I think the Web3 and sports space is ever evolving. I think based on the regulation, right, based on the each government sort of compliances. I think definitely more and more governments are regulating that space, but I think we still see a lot of NFT projects are crossing over with major league sports. But definitely, as I mentioned, market volatility, regulatory uncertainty and scrutiny, right? We have to monitor that, really keep abreast of the development in that space, because it could change overnight. Things like FTX might happen anytime soon, and you don't even know about it, right? But the goal is to really learn upon it and to monitor it and really strategize your strategy to see if you want to start, with a Web3 to start with, if your risk tolerance is not very high. And also, if you were to thinking about, starting your own project, you definitely need to understand your audience, right? To see their acceptance regarding the Web3 scheme, regarding blockchain, right? And then also, if you were to start, how do you actually start with education, right? Or I think also a trend these days is to onboard the users without them even knowing they're actually be in the Web3 space. With just onboarding, like you don't have to create a so-called crypto wallet. You just need to create your email address and plug in, right? And then bam, you can do it. So I think this is also a trend in that space as well. And also, since regardless you have NFTs of Fen tokens, I think for everybody to make money is definitely through trading, right? But I think we shouldn't, as a I guess celebrity athletes, sports teams, we shouldn't focus on kind of the trading side of it, but really focusing on creating more utilities, benefits, and fan engagement, really creating this bond between fans and the sports clubs closer, rather than focusing on the trading part of it. Maybe the token eventually could just be a real game token, right? Just showing appreciations, but not to be too bogged down by the rise and falls, because oftentimes a lot of people get affected by that, right? So I think everyone should think about that as well. Fan engagement is tend to be more gamified. I think it's we also need to balancing the difficulties of the gamifications as well. If it gets too complicated, maybe people don't want to follow through anymore. So, but But I think gamification is definitely a trend within all the sort of NFT projects and token project or even the sponsorship that we're looking at, right? Because again, gaming I guess is the most interactive content that we can think of. So I think gamification is important, and also since given the reward system based on the blockchain technology, it needs to be fast, right? If you get reward immediately, you want to do it immediately. If I get my I guess coffee cart, if I need to collect 10 copies to get one free copy, maybe I will even follow through, right? So I think in that space, it's very fast. Yeah, I think the last bit is really connecting the offline and digital experience together, creating sort of NFT ticketing. If you are like F1, like the Williams Pass F1 ticket, if I hold it, it's just like I'm a member and I get to my fan interaction zone, and I get all these sort of experiences, right, that no other fans can kind of get involved with. So I think this is also very important. So we don't have to act like crypto bros and hide in the shadow and be undoxed and don't want people to know who we are, but really kind of utilizing that as offline online engagement scheme, right, to enjoy everything in life. Okay, so the last bit I'll go with. Does anybody want to take a wild guess when Lambo mean as a crypto lingo? Can you hear you, Peggy?
That's tough. When Lambo is like, when should we do the limbo rock? No, just joking. I'm not sure.
By the way, Lambo means Lamborghini.
Yeah, yeah. When Lamborghini?
Yeah, when Lamborghini.
When should we race and train?
Wild guess? Nobody guessed?
Area. We have for the young ones to guess.
Yeah.
When Lambo.
Yeah. No idea. I can see everybody's chats, but yeah, it's I think this is actually kind of the sponsorship between Bybit and Rebel Oracle team. I think one of the activations they've done is, again, going back to education. They're having Max Verstappen, the other racer, forgot his name, really teaching people all these lingos. What does position mean? What is
Interesting.
has to be as an education, but as a first piece of mass adoption. So when Limbo, the fact that I put it over here because it means that when do you trade your crypto tokens so rich and you can buy a Lamborghini? So it's a very
it's a bro jargon. It's your bro jargon.
Yeah, but you can see this is the effort between like some of the creativities behind these crypto sponsorship, as well as utilizing their team assets as well as players, right, or racers into the effort. So I feel like they've done a lot, but this is something that's ever evolving, right? So this is my presentation.
Thanks, Brittany. I think your case studies were really wonderful, and the amount of time that you put in each case study is so powerful. I mean, I've heard about PSG, NBA Top Shot, but the rest, it's like what the Binance is doing with Ronaldo, and especially this latest move to app. Could tell them to support Singapore, and maybe a promotion board. We could use it to reach out to the younger generation, right? But thank you so much. It's really I think it's a lot to absorb, but
Yeah.
I love the case studies, and I love that the way you talk about the bros language is like they belong to another world. That's why you tell me, right? Hopefully those bros are also quite good looking, that you can also have good conversations. But but thank you so much. Brittany was always having a joke with me about that. Yeah. So thanks. The recording's still available. Thanks, Brittany. It's been a wonderful, it's so much to learn from that. And I come out like 50% more, knowing more about the Web3 world and the bros and when Lambo. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Maybe
Thanks,
we
Brittany.
will thanks, Brittany. Those who have gone, just maybe if you have time to just fill up the form and let us know how you feel about the session. It's more for us moving forward. Area is that's called Natasha is back here for the L&OD segment. Does anybody need a break? No, I think it's fine. We'll go on anyway. Come. And the next segment, Natasha needs no introduction if you do not already know. She was one of my former mentors, and I really learned a lot from her. When I was not very good student, sometimes very good students, sometimes not very good students. Depends on which angle. Sometimes, we shan't talk too much about these things. But as I remember what Erica said, right, at the At the kickoff session, everyone is a mentor and a mentee at the same time. We can always learn from one another, and that's the true spirit of a learning community. So, Natasha, looking forward to learn from you on org culture. Take it over.
Thank you, Peggy. Firstly, I just want to say, Brittany, thank you. I loved listening to you. And truly, it's like, hi to everyone. Hi, fellow mentors. That's it. I'm just going to say fellow mentors because guess what? You're going to have a conversation and we're all going to learn from each other. And I want to start with thanking Ariel for doing a short, yeah, teach, right, on how to share screen. So let's see, Ariel, how good a student am I? Every teacher is a student. All right, Ariel, thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, awesome. All right, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on which part of the world you are in. I'm Natasha. I'm calling in from the UK. It's a bright early morning for me. However, the breakfast pictures over there are not because it's my breakfast time. It's because I was there in Singapore for 15 years and I learned that you cannot start any presentation or workshop without talking about food, right? Ladies and gentlemen. So welcome
Yes, that's very
everybody.
true.
Of course, the topic, by the way, when Peggy and I, we were kind of brainstorming a few months ago. Peggy was like, Natasha, why don't you give a talk on? And I was like, yeah, I could do something on coaching because I love being an executive coach. And I feel I really can see the impact and the growth as an executive coach, working with leaders, executives, their teams, their peers, their stakeholder groups. And then you all know Peggy, right? So Peggy, sorry for throwing you under the bus, but hey, this is a double-decker bus, a really nice red British London one, where Peggy was like, Nat, you got to give a talk on LNOD. And I'm like, that took a year to have the course, right? So let's see what we can put in an hour's time. And what I've put over here is something around organizational culture. Because guess what? We all know, and I love the saying, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's why here are the pictures of breakfast from Singapore, London, UK, and India. And I want to know who's there in the room. I'll have a chance to get to speak with most of you and listen to most of you really soon. So, what about organizational culture is going to be meaningful for you today? Because that's the thing, something like organizational culture sounds so big. It feels so big, almost like the traditional, the story of the elephant, and there could be so many different ways of reaching it. Here's three focus areas that I thought might be supportive in making some sense that's meaningful for us to take away today, or for anyone listening even to the video, for you to apply it, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a team leader, an organizational leader, or even in any capacity, even in your own families. Because I used that when I moved from from Singapore to UK last year. I always have this Freudian slip because I think I'm still in love with Singapore. Let's see. Organizational culture. The first thing I want to focus upon is that many times when I walk into organizations talking to CEOs, COOs, the HR executives, and L&OD experts, a lot of them they ask for data. And I say, how about we start with discovery? Data is truly important and we're going to collect that. But the question is, what kind of data? So the three focus areas that I'm looking into today is first, and I'm going to invite you, if you're listening in and you've got a pen and a paper, or even just on your computers, if you can just have a chance to type in a few thoughts on your tablet, on your phone, take a moment, a deep breath in. What about organizational culture are you personally curious about? So giving a moment just for our own inner thoughts to come about. Because I believe in conscious conversations. And how do we get to conscious conversation is from inside out. So what about organizational culture? And you are most welcome to put on the chat as well, by the way. So let's see if I can take a look at the chat, if there's any inputs here. What about organizational culture are you personally curious about? I love that. How to get the best out of Gen Z or millennials. How to balance differences in team needs in organizational culture, a really solid one. And keep the questions coming, keep the thoughts coming, because the invitation is you're going to have a conversation around some of this. By the way, you're going to be soon in breakout rooms, so we'll have an opportunity to truly make this as your own thinking, reflection, and to take something useful away. What are the ingredients in your team culture, in your organizational culture that are healthy and sustainable? So let's have a think around that. Even as an individual, and I've worked with entrepreneurs who've started out a small startup or someone who's really just got a team of 2 people. And the question is, what are some ingredients in your own personal practice or interpersonal practice that's healthy, sustainable, and makes you go the extra mile and moves the needle? So let's think about ingredients, and ingredients meaning literally words, phrases, a value, a purpose, something that keeps you going when the going gets tough. And finally, what's a paradigm shift? I remember when I first met you all, I introduced myself as a paradigm shift. It's a perspective or a practice that we can learn from each other. And by the way, I want to share some good news about having a concrete example of a paradigm shift for myself. So I just got my license in my midlife crisis for the first time in my life in the UK. I just got my license, yay! And here's the paradigm shift. Before, when I would sit in a car, I would tend to see the clouds, the trees, everything beautiful around me, and definitely the phone. And now, what do I see when I sit in the car? The road signs, the traffic signs, even when I'm not driving. Now, that's a paradigm shift where you literally see different things. So, what I'm hoping for is even if you see a slightly different perspective from each other around organizational culture, this time is worth our time together. Shall we aim for that? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you all in the breakout room very soon because your voice is so important as part of the conversation. And I hope, Ariel, I can be part of the breakout room. Otherwise, no worries. We'll find a way to debrief after. What we're going to do in the breakout room, there's going to be about 2 or 3 of us in each room. And here's what I'm going to invite us to do.
Net, I think we might not have to do breakout rooms because I think there's enough for us as one group. Easier.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe let's try with that one, Peggy. I'm happy to try with that one out. So the first aspect. Hi, Olafemi. Yes.
He's on the plane to UK.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, this is amazing. The heights of organizational culture. Let's look at that, right? So the first thing about culture is that we're all part of a timeline. And that's something very concrete to start about when we talk about culture, which seems very inconcrete. And I want to bring in one of my mentors, my teachers, Margaret J. Wheatley. If you Google about her, she's a thought leader in the field and in the field of LNOD. And her simple quotes is kind of framing this entire conversation that there's no power for change greater than a community discovering about what it cares about. So, as part of the timeline, my invitation for you is this. I've just put a timeline 2000 to 2050, past, present, future, and we're somewhere in the mid of 2025, like going to be there soon. So, about like half a century, if you were to think, and you could go beyond or before 2000 as well. When did you join the organization that you are currently in? If you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Z, whichever part of the system one comes from, age and stage of life, just have a think. And that's an easy one, right? When did you join the organization you are currently in? What do you recall noticing about the culture when you joined? So when we join an organization, a system, a new place, we have new eyes. Just like that, I did share, I love martial arts. I was a practicing Aikido practitioner for almost a decade of my life. Um, so I really believe in the new eyes of a learner. What do you recall noticing about your culture when you joined? Was it as tech savvy? Was it as bureaucratic? Was it as smooth? Was it a lot of inclusion, diversity, whatever it is that comes to your mind around what did you recall noticing about the culture? Was it toxic? Was it really transformational? Whichever words come to you. There's no right or wrong words, but it's really just a description And that's something that you can think about even if you don't want to share it out loud. But the important question is, what are the elements of culture that you care most about? So what I was hoping was if there are three people in a room or even a pair, we could have a more intimate conversation. And then the person with the shorter hair, and I'm imagining Peggy and I in this conversation together. So the person with the shorter hair captures the words or phrases to describe what is it that in the group one is talking, what does one care most about organization or even team culture? Because sometimes we really care about our team. The organization is so much bigger than that. So it's really the key takeout away from this breakout is what do you care most about? So let's take a pause. Let's see how many people are there in the Peggy. Need your eyes over here.
We have 8. Sorry,
Eight.
minus the AI 7. Yeah.
That's all
Some of them
right.
have left because this week is a bad week. A lot of them are away.
I
The
can
Wasserman and
understand.
WTT team. Yeah.
In fact, if people were coming in from the UK, they wouldn't because it's the last day of school and summer
Yeah.
break begins. So I can
Katie is
imagine
there.
Europe.
She's
Hi,
all the way from
Katie.
UK.
And it's sunny.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's
Hello.
sunny. Oh, England, England, England.
So what do we do? Shall we just have an open conversation here and
Yeah, I think that's
invite?
better. That's better.
All
Yeah.
right. So go ahead. And since Katie, you've just joined, no, I'm gonna be nice to you. Maybe I'm gonna just start with Peggy, you're gonna be my co-facilitator. Would you like to start for GSIC, right? When did you join the organization? What do you notice about the culture? What do you care most?
Area is
Couple of
laughing.
words.
I joined on 1st of July, so that's like
I
3 weeks
know!
ago.
Happy birthday! We're almost
It-
reaching a month.
yeah, but it's been okay. So I joined this 3 weeks ago. If you have not noticed, therefore um some of the things I'd say about GSIC may not be fully true because it's only 3 weeks old. But and what are the things our culture is almost like startup, I think. Very lean team, only 10 across the whole global. And that's number one. So we're like a startup. That means we have to work fast and be nimble and all hands on deck. Ariel knows that. She's like looking at me. It's like, yes, Peggy, I'm doing everything. All hands on deck. But I think what I really enjoy is the empowerment. I think there's a real sense of empowerment. Ariel can work from home 3 days, no problem, as long as she doesn't work. I don't care. And she knows that, right? Yeah. So empowerment is important. And I think the sense of also respect that we have for one another. I mean, Ariel, she told me, she always tell me, Peggy, I'm just a fresh graduate. Please remember. Yeah, so I do try to remember that. But we respect others' opinion, even though, she's like, Ariel is like millennial, that's for sure. So that's important. So we are like a startup, number one. I think there's a real sense of empowerment all the way from top to the bottom. The team is very lean. Even with me and Iris, it's fully empowerment. And number three, I think the respect. And I think number four is very important as a purpose, right? Why do we come to work every day? So when people ask me for the past few weeks, what do I do? And at GSIC, I just tell them in my own words, we are trying to solve the world's problems through sports tech to make the world a better place, whether it's whatever it is. So that's my experience. But if you ask Ava, she might tell you very different answers.
Absolutely. I can imagine, right? So I'm going to request one quick thing. Maybe we just open the room for 3 minutes and let's see, because there are 8 people, and I do love in my talks to have every voice have a share, because each one of you is unique. So, Ariel, I'm going to request you to open the rooms and let's see if maybe because people have the videos off and you may be just away for the moment, maybe you'll be alone in the room and that's all right. Just have a think and write down around when did you join your organization. So it's a self-reflection, as Margaret Wheatley says, that's equally important, and many others of us, we believe in that too. What do you recall about the culture when you first joined in with new eyes, and currently, depending on how many months or years or even weeks you've been in the organization, what do you care about creating for your own team culture? Okay, so it could be a conversation, a one-on-one, or it could even be just a reflection, just about 3 to 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So people who are alone, you don't feel you're reflecting alone for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna have 2 rooms. This main room for one group, and room 1, which people will be moving into now.
Beautiful.
Okay, let's try.
Katie.
Okay, here we go. So
Hi, me, Daniel Olufemi. If you're here, you're most welcome to unmute. And this room, I'm not going to be saying anything, but it's really over to you.
But thank you. I not sure I'll be able to contribute because my flight is just about to take off and I'll be switching off. Sorry, I'm going to be missing this session on how about take the outcomes from the notes.
no problem. Have a good flight, Olufemi.
Yeah, and a safe one. Take care.
Thank
So
you
if you're
very much.
listening in,
Maybe
just
I'll see
reflect Olufemi. Thank you.
maybe I'll see you, Natasha, in UK.
Hopefully. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Katie, if I may invite you to share your thoughts, please.
On the culture in the
Yes.
the organization that I'm in. Yeah, it's interesting. I've changed jobs a few times. I've worked in a few different organizations and have recently changed roles as of September last year. And I think it's interesting to compare between environments you've been in because cultures are often very different. I think the culture of the organization that I'm in currently is work hard, play hard, would be my description. It's it's a sports agency. It's very fast, it's very furious, there's always lots going on. But broadly speaking, everyone looks after each other. Certainly in immediate teams, you kind of know that people have got your back, which is a nice feeling to, especially when you're busy or you're under strain. It's feeling that you're protected is, I guess, the word that I would use, which is nice.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm just going to invite people whose video I can see, but May and Daniel, most welcome to pitch in. Ariel, let's hear from you.
I joined GSIC in January, literally one day before our big event in APAC. So it was really jumping into deep end trial by fire. The organization's changed, I think, quite a fair bit from, personnel-wise, from when I first joined. My first week was the last week of our previous head of comms, so that was a bit of a journey. But for me, it was really getting used to the culture of a very, very lean, very small team. I've always worked in bigger organizations, I would say, slightly more governmental organizations like Peggy. But yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to know people better because sometimes I feel like in large organizations, other than the people on your team, you don't really get to know people as well and you don't work with them as closely. Yeah.
Thank you. And what do you care most about to
I
create
think
for GSIC?
for me, it's the culture of trust and the difference in culture, I guess, between a European-based company versus, Singaporean companies, which can be very, very different. Yeah. So it's definitely been very, very nice working with Iris and back to that almost the Spanish type of culture that I loved when I was living there.
I think that
Lovely.
I think trust is quite an interesting word, isn't it? Because it makes you feel empowered. It makes you feel that you are, yeah, you're able to do your work and that no one's necessarily like, always checking up on you. And I wonder, do you think that comes partly because you're a lean team and therefore everyone needs to do their role because there's not enough people to really check and do everything? Do you think that one breeds the other or the other way around?
I think you might be right, yeah. Because we're so lean, everyone is always busy with just getting everything done.
Yeah.
That there's no time for micromanaging. No one has
Mm,
time to micromanage because if you
yeah.
micromanage, nothing will ever get
Yes.
done.
Exactly. And I wonder whether it's like an intentional, and it's interesting with culture, isn't it? I wonder whether it's an intentional build to be trustworthy or to be trusting, sorry, or whether it's kind of actually this is the environment we have. And by that it's then bred the culture. It's good ultimately, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Great question.
don't know. Yeah.
I used to have a manager in a previous role, and she headed up. So at the time I was working in partnerships, and she headed the partnership team. And she was very much like, you do your job, you manage your partners, and tell me if there's an issue. So like our one-to-ones were, okay, what's in your mind? Is there anything worrying you? Is there any challenges, etc.? But wouldn't get close to the day-to-day. And I found that to start with I felt that she didn't care. I felt that she wasn't kind of that fussed, because if anyone was to ask her what is Katie working on at the moment, she probably wouldn't be able to answer at that point. And actually it's only on reflection and once I got to know her a bit more that she was like, actually that was her way of empowering us and trusting us. I just didn't necessarily see it because she was like, you've got it and you'll tell me if you don't got it, type thing.
Yeah.
But it was quite an interesting bit to get used to.
What you said, Katie, is the crux of it all, which is when we speak about culture and management, or, even just a team lead and a team member, oftentimes that's the communication that goes missing because we trust. So what you just said, and that's something I've heard over and over again, where as leaders, the culture, what they believe in the culture is not to micromanage, to trust, to have a vision, just share the vision with the people in partners. That's what you got to do. Here are the goals. If there's a problem, come to me. And yet, when they don't say what people need to hear, perhaps that's to answer Ariel, your question about as well, the Gen Z and the millennials to say, but do you really know about what I'm doing? And do I get, like a sticker, if you will, well, not sticker, but, an affirmation, a validation, that would be nice to have. And so oftentimes when I coach leaders, I just remind them of how it was for them when they started at the age of 20s and 30s, and what's required, not necessarily to put it by age, but by stages of an organization's development, a team's development, to say, how can we celebrate the small wins and make it go bigger than from there? So you really hit the nail on not the coffin, the wall, the vision wall, Katie.
All right, I'm gonna bring everyone else back in now.
Thank you, Ariel. And May and Daniel, I hope you're there listening, tuning in, and reflecting, even if we didn't get to hear your voices. Next round.
Let's see. Are people coming back in?
That's the thing.
Oh, I think we are out. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to invite, here's something I'm going to leave it optional just because of the time. I did create a menti.com. And if you were to go at menti.com, use the code 2423088. I'm going to open that up. And if you were to just put it in words, and this is something you can do with your teams or even your stakeholders. Imagine there are 20, 100 people in the room. And if you were just to use this, right, and ask people, all right, what do we most care about? Our partnership culture, our team culture, organization culture, this particular event, what do we want to get out of it? So I've opened that up on Menti. Would you kindly just put in your responses? It's a word cloud, so try and put words or at best a short phrase. Thank you. I can see some responses coming in. Let me see if I can share the Menti so you get a glimpse of what's happening live. Yeah, you can see Menti. So if you would please kindly go to menti.com and use this code and you'll be able to respond. So far, we've got 2 responses. One individual can respond up to 3 times. So if
What's the
you've
code
got more
again,
words,
Nat? What's the code again?
it's over here. I'm sharing it on the screen, 2423088.
2423088. Okay.
Yes.
All right. You know that's me.
Interesting. Yeah. Love it. So if anyone wants to continue, keep on populating it with words. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll share this at the end with you, Ariel. So this is an interesting one. Again, just a simple tools. And I love again what Brittany shared about. I think Brittany, I'm still old school, but I am learning, and I feel all these little things where we can just capture people's thoughts, data, information. It truly creates participation. It creates reflection, and it creates the question that you asked for, Ariel, which is between the Gen Z and the millennials, or any even in a larger organization. Trust is a really interesting one. So I'm going to share a real short case study, almost I call them stories, of my work. And I looked at one particular client where, let me see if I can play this on. Yes. So the first, I'm going to talk about two or three principles to anchor organizational culture as a takeaway today. The first principle as to what do we need to know about culture is literally culture and strategies are things we co-create. It's something that comes from inside out, and therefore some organizations have great strategies, some organizations have good strategies, and the others are others, right? Similarly, we may have strategies, but what about culture? Because as they say, if culture eats strategy for breakfast, we've got to really notice when you meet your team, when you meet your manager, it could be big, small, entrepreneurship, startup, it doesn't matter. The query is, what words are people truly using, and not just at the surface level, but in their actions, in their results? What thoughts are they operating from the OS system, so to speak? That kind of gives a leader a sense of what culture this place has. So it's called the constructionist principle. Let me give you an example. I was working with a client where there was a merger happening, and as we all know, the minute we think of merger, many people fill in the blank and say, merger and acquisition. And in different industries, that could mean different things. But the words, I did a research of this one particular client, and actually it mirrors a lot of other clients, is oftentimes the unspoken or the spoken words are really about profit, productivity, performance, processes, purpose. If we were to do a word cloud, they did have purpose in that, notice it. However, the culture was really about, hey, let's be, profitable, and let's really focus on productivity and performance. And then you can imagine the culture of the place, of how people show up to work, what are the conversations in the meetings, what are the strategies and the processes aiming at, and how is all that automation helping, and who is it helping? At the end of it, it was truly helping, and everything was catered to create higher and higher profits. And that was the organizational culture, part A of the merger. But part B of the other team that was coming in, for them, their topmost part of the culture was purpose. And culture is something, it's like nature and nurture, right? Part of it is just something what is, part of it we can nurture, and we can begin to have hope. So for them, it was really about, while we're looking at profit, that's important, can we also look at innovation? Let's look at industries, industrial partnership. And sports, I believe, is truly at that particular pinnacle of heights of pinnacle. As I listen to Sports Singapore, as I listen to GSIC and some other partners, it's really about what's the meaning behind our work. And for every successful athlete, we know there's an entire system, an entire team that makes that possible, that brings the story out. So, in terms of the constructionist principle, if we were to bring it down to yourself and your team, the question is, what are your thoughts? What are your words that you would like to make it happen? So, trust, interestingly, is not here on the slide. And in today's conversation, trust came up, empowerment came up. And those are really important to make any of this happen, which is how can we learn about what does it mean to have trust when we're a very lean team? And what does it mean to have trust when we are a very big organization? So, those are very personal and interpersonal depending on the context. The second thing that I'd like to share is really a strengths based perspective on building culture. And this could even be built with partners and stakeholders outside our team, because that's where most of our work is looking at with clients. And while we have a great culture with our team, how do we ensure that this culture results in results without burning out? So if you notice in the previous slide, there's a small little tag on the right hand side, the constructionist principle. Oftentimes, when I speak with my clients, they talk about burnout. And the shift for them is, if we were to focus on well being, how do we then move towards a culture, towards processes, towards everything that allows us to be productive, profitable, but at the same time, keeping myself first. So I love that you're here, Katie. Thank you. That's a win, and celebrating you over here, Katie. What I'd like to share as just a tip of the iceberg is two of my other teachers, David Cooperrider, whose teacher was Suresh Srivastava, and they began this entire work called Appreciative Inquiry Methodology. The idea is, what is it that we can appreciate? I mean, the slide the other way around. What can we appreciate, which is actively observing things that gives life, that leads to success and strengths and lessons? And what are things that we can inquire as an executive, as a team player, as a leader, where we can really ask, hey, team, when things worked exceptionally well, what enabled it? So even in GSIC, right, Peggy and Ariel, what are the success factors from the first round to this round that you all have grown, and what are the success factors that we can continue to grow while integrating a lot of the feedback and inputs? Those are the
Katie has a
conversations.
question.
I think
Yes.
don't know whether the presentation was meant to move on, but I'm still on the visual that I can see. Ah, perfect. It's done it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm noticing a bit of a lag on the Microsoft. Oops.
Yeah, well, because I think it was on the first that slide. Now it's moving on. David Copywriter, you're right.
Thank you. So thanks, Katie, for that, and Peggy. So the question is, when things work exceptionally well, what enables it? And I spoke about appreciative inquiry, and again, Margaret Wheatley's wonderful quote that without reflection, so one of the things for culture, if there were three takeaways, I would say at this point as well, is as a team, as an individual, do you have windows of reflection? A reflection could be a conversation to ask what's working well, what's not working well, what can we do better. It could be for introverted leaders, some alone time. But the idea is that without reflection, if we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences. While we want to do well, we actually don't end up doing as well because we create from A to B, we end up going from A to C, D, E, F, and we fail to achieve anything useful. So over here, what I'd like to share is the second principle. First is the timeline, the constructionist principle. And for the second principle, I want to bring the idea of place when we talk about culture, when we talk about purpose and passion. So I'm going to invite over here again, and I think the breakout rooms were still useful. Shall we do that one more time, just for another 3 minutes? But this time the question is, think of a highly memorable moment at work when you experienced a sense of meaning, autonomy, and possibility. I like to call it the map, and it's inspired by Daniel Pink's work. What's the story? So just think, right? Recently, and Peggy, I'm going to challenge you, even in 3 weeks, I know you've been there, with GSIC from day one that I've known, but in the last 3 weeks, here's the challenge for you. What is a sense of meaning, autonomy, and possibility that you've experienced? And it's truly memorable. Meaning and things, what makes it memorable is often things that goes downhill first, and we're able to actually go through it and make it go uphill again. So
Am
capture
I
what
supposed to share
aspect.
now or in the breakout room?
I'm really trying to sense over here. I only see 5 of us online, and I'm not sure. Maybe the
6.
others choose to think. I'm happy for you to share it over here. How about that?
Okay. I must say it's a mentoring program, right? When it's the way we kickstarted, I thought definitely has great meaning for me and Iris because the DEI vertical for GSIC is about women empowerment, and that's a key thing. So I had full autonomy to run do the program, the way I think I think it should be done for this round. I know we made some mistakes for sure. Um, yeah, like we shouldn't have sessions on Fridays, I guess. That could be one of the adjustments for next year. Katie is smiling and laughing at me. Um, but I think of those times when so meaning definitely this project, it is in the 3rd edition. I was involved in the 2nd edition last year. But that time was a smaller group, and this time I was fully involved right from the start. And just to having friends like yourself, Natasha, and all the other 19 mentors coming on board saying we are coming on with our hours and pro bono, and that is really, that fills my heart. And then when I look at the mentees and and some of them are teaching me things, And even at last minute, our friends are pushing for, for their employees to come on board, like WTT. Melissa was like, you know what, I believe in this program. I've got two, but I think there are two more coming. Just give me a bit more time. Those things really make you feel that this program, people see in that. And in terms of possibility, you couldn't imagine how many calls I've had in the last 3 weeks. People, and Area knows this, right? Just text me out of nowhere, my LinkedIn, I want to be the next mentor, and asking for a coffee chat. I'm like, I'm trying to manage my time, but it's a happy problem, Katie. People out of nowhere, from some country, just text me and say, "Oh, I heard of this program." Maybe Era did such a great social media campaign, right? So that the possibilities are amazing. And already there are mentees signing up for the next edition. Can we start our edition this year? No, because we are too near November and December, and everybody's going for holiday. So our third edition I can officially announce is March to May, and then the next one is July to September. Right? So possibilities are immense, and I think even brands are looking at it. Big organizations are looking at it and saying that I want to be involved. And I think that, to me, it's my proudest moment so far with GSIC so far. Yeah, in terms of the three coming together. Yeah.
Thank you, Peggy. And this is what I love, because as I'm listening in and I'm keeping appreciative inquiry as a frame to capture what can we appreciate. Literally, appreciate comes from an economics term, where can we put our money that's going to grow? So literally, as I'm talking, because I work with economists, I work with people with their PhDs and different thought processes from different industries. The query is, what aspects can we truly grow? And let's say if you're a leader with the leading millennials and leading whichever group, because that was one of the questions that came in earlier, my invitation to leaders is to walk away with three things and to practice three things, if possible, in every day, at least monthly, on a monthly basis, minimally. What are those three things? And I'm taking that inspiration from your story, and I'm going to connect the dots, Peggy. So, for instance, the first thing that I'd like to share about this, amongst those three things, is literally to begin to think and have that mindset in the culture, in the team, in the organization, even in your conversation with clients or with partners, especially since we've spoken to different people over here about working across time zones. What are some of our problems that creates a break in transparency, that creates, just because we couldn't anticipate some of the things, what will lead us from a break to breakthrough? What can lead us, and you use the word possibility, Peggy, what can lead us from a problem towards a possibility? And the wholeness principle comes, my inspiration is literally from the Japanese kinsakai, which is, if a bowl is broken, we don't throw away the bowl, but we literally paint it with gold. And I love that idea, which is how can we take our problems and truly have that growth mindset to see what are we going to do about it using technology, using all these amazing things that we're learning from our fellow mentors. So part of the culture of learning and learning from living systems is the first idea of how do we move from me to we? It could be whether you're a team leader, maybe you're not a team leader and you're working literally in an individual capacity. But every person who's working in an individual capacity, there is this sense of from me to we. How can we have a culture of coaching, mentoring, conscious conversations? So I'm not necessarily asking every person to be a coach, but to have that approach of a coaching culture, because here's what living system says. A system changes when its perception of itself changes. So whether you're a millennial, a Gen Z, a client, a stakeholder, if your perception of yourself changes from a problem to a possibility, from a break to a breakthrough, from a conscious ask to a conscious give, it allows for movement. It allows for us to move the needle. So one of the many models, and over here I'm going to skip past going into the details, but if you're interested, I'm happy to have a conversation and offer you a coaching on this particular model. My favorite one is about stages of change, because in organizations, most people have to manage change. And my favorite is when people go from I won't, or teams or organizations
Nat,
go.
can I check whether the slides are not moving again? We are still on place, purpose, and passion. Yes. All right. Katie is reminding us. Katie's we're just talking.
Katie, you're the lifesaver in this call. My God, like scuba diving, you're literally the oxygen tank, huh?
Yeah.
So this is where we were
I'll take
moving.
that for a Friday.
So from a
You
me
guys
to
need to be for
we,
another. Yeah. All right.
yeah, thank you. And also then literally the thing that I was sharing was the Prochaska model of stages and change, where it's literally moving from I won't to I might to I will. And I'm not going to go into this in the breakout room, but one of the questions I ask leaders is, when is the time in your organization, in your team, or even for yourself, when you moved literally from I won't towards I am that? My personal example is literally in Singapore, I was like, I'm not going to spend my time learning how to drive. And today I can say, yay, I know how to drive. I am driving.
Congratulations. In a in response to that, an area would tell you that I'm every day moving from I won't to I will, because the number of things that's coming to us, and area is laughing, is crazy, right? Because I'm still short of one member of my team and still recruiting. So every moment, for those of you, I'm leaving from can I do this to I have to do this. And but therein lies the thing about self-health and care, right? I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Like what you said, but I think the mindset is the most important. I love it when you say that we must have conscious conversations. Sometimes I wish I can spend a bit more time talking to my colleagues. Sometimes I just tell her no, just go do it. Just go find something and then come back to me. Yeah. But
And
so
that's
but I
perfectly
must make time.
fine.
I must make
It's
time. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where I really work with entrepreneurs and leaders and every individual with a compassion mindset to say, do your best, do what you can, as long as you're literally going and operating from a sense of from me to we. So it doesn't matter whether we're a Gen Z, a millennial, or any form in that sense of the ladders, but it's literally a coaching culture, even across time zones, to say, all right, instead of looking at individual entities like Australia and Singapore and UK and US, how can we really operate as we system? Because ultimately, when we come together in sports, that's what we're really aiming for as the end result. The second one, the second shift is from parts to whole. And it sounds similar, but the first one is more personalized, and the second one is literally, therefore, to put in systems thinking. And I'm trained in system as a systems thinker, and Peggy and I, we spent a year looking into some of those aspects. From a living system perspective, the two things that stands out for me is to understand that oftentimes, like you just said, Peggy, in your own story, things cannot be steered or controlled. But you can only accept solutions that's showing up, that's coming up, that's calling you. Let's have a coffee, maybe too much coffee. Let's have a healthy juice. Let's kind of make things happen. And the answers don't exist out there, but we need to experiment. And sometimes our team and our most exhausted member needs to be reminded of that. Which is, instead of being perfect, instead of doing things right all the time, what if we allow the design thinking mindset to prototype? To just really get out there and create, play with the Web3, bring in some branding experimentation that we haven't done in the past, try something different. And we need that courage and support in order to move from the movement of parts to whole. And this could take place at various levels. So I'm not going to go into the different levels, but again, another deep conversation, and I love this conversation that can be happened. Uh, One of my favorite case studies, I've read so many of them, worked with different leaders, was literally Satya Nadella's book on Microsoft and how he spoke about transforming the entire organizational culture. And one of the things that I've really read in his book and a lot of other thought leaders' book is how the vision allows us to go the deepest in the iceberg. So, in many of the organizations that run with the command and control culture historically, how do we move towards a coaching culture, towards a transformative culture? Is literally changing our mindsets. So, we're moving from the deep down over here vision towards what's the mental model. So, we're coming up from the iceberg. And the mindset is literally the growth mindset. There's so much, many materials out there by different thought leaders to support us in changing habits, changing behaviors. And one of the new things that I'm really listening in is how well-being is literally well-working. And I've heard a couple of you already share in this call that well-being is important. So how can listening ears, how can really conversations, how can the mindset of bringing in new policies, prototypes, especially in government organizations or even in startups where we don't have the time to train and do what perhaps the bigger organizations do, how do we stay nimble and yet move the needle? So a lot of that then talks about the systemic structures. And as a diving, I love scuba diving. I used to go down, that was in Singapore, Malaysia. I haven't done it in the UK. But one of the things is as we go deep, how do we surface safely? Because that's the ultimate goal, right? To the moon and back. So talking about being back is literally then reflecting that success in our adaptive patterns and finally in a successful event. And the event, how do we measure success? What does that success mean to us? So there's so many juicy insights that one we can look into when we're describing what's a culture, what do we want to enable, and ultimately all of it comes and starts with this particular point of view, which is from firefighting to finding a birthing vision. And I put the word birthing because literally I've been working with a lot of women leaders as a women mentor in GSIC. I can't call it G6, sorry, Peggy. I keep calling it GSIC because it's like, oh, so psyched up, you know? So literally it's about birthing our own vision from the inside out around what do we want to learn, what is well-being, and what's a well-working culture for different individuals. And here's a thought. If coaches provide that freedom, that space for athletes to understand an athlete's best performance and help that person develop and be his or her best and truly shine, what if we treat every individual in our team as the ace athlete and truly allow that person to shine? So, when we all work together, what vision can we truly co create? Because a living system pays attention only to that which is meaningful to it here and now. And the story I have is working with thousands of teams over the last 15 years, where many of them are stuck in firefighting just because that's what's meaningful. It's getting rid of the problems and really acknowledging and doing things to move the needle. But then when they take some time out to truly reflect, are we just putting a band-aid on the problems or are we really fixing the problems and creating something worthy? Then they begin to move from firefighting to finding a vision and working towards that. And this is something very, very personal to every team, every organization, every system. And I'm happy to work with you on that if given the opportunity. So Margaret Wheatley literally says the power of change comes from identifying the often unconscious narrative the business is living by and consciously choosing the one you want to live into. It's not strategic plans that creates change. Ouch. I've worked with so many leaders who come and tell me, my leader gave me feedback, I've got to be more strategic. And I'm like, before being strategic, which is important, let's really be a lot more conscious and aware. And I'm sure you'll get there. So it's not strategic plans to create change. It's a storyline of who we want to become that makes the difference. And if there's any anchor I wish for you to take away from today's call is this. So what's your story? And even if you're watching this as a video, I hope that your own reflective process allows you to come out and away with a slightly different paradigm shift, a practice that you think you can actually operate in as soon as possible, starting today, and then truly creating what you feel is most worthy for you. Thank you. I'm ending a little 5 minutes ago to allow time for Q&A. For further, please contact me, Natasha Dalmia. You can find me on LinkedIn. And in the UK, I'm freelancing, where I'm literally working with clients, organizations that I wish to work for. So it could be as a coach, a mentor, a facilitator, a thought partner, thinker in different capacities. That's me, and I'm going to stop sharing my slides over here.